started, but notice doesn't come. Ah, yeah, now it's coming. Okay,
Sir, I guess last class you took attendance, sir.
I haven't. I didn't. Anyway, I give attendance to all in that case. Not to worry. I mean, this last class means I'm asking aero design. I did not take it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. We'll come to the COs. You'll understand the COs probably better after we go through the syllabus. Now, welcome to CFT again. CFD for aerospace. Where does this subject, stand as far as your BTech program goes? First, I'll start with that. Now, you have studied fluid dynamics, you have studied aerodynamics, and you have gone through the governing equations of motion. You would have known, how to superimpose flows, especially potential flows, where you assume, irrotationality and no viscosity. Invisible irrotational flows or potential flows actually. In addition, steady 2D planar flows, etc., etc. Now, what about the Navier-Stokes equation? You might also learn some exact solutions in boundary layer theory, boundary layer approximation, fluid dynamics, um, Blasius solution, and other things. But those are approximate. But the attraction is they're analytical. You have a formula, you know the parameters, you apply the formula, and finally you get the results. Straightforward. Okay. No confusion, no uncertainty. The uncertainty is in the assumption. You are assuming flow to be inviscid, irrotational. Then you get a solution. Now we can ask, what if there's a small amount of rotationality? You say, okay, I'll neglect it. Then thin airfoil theory. What if I have some thickness? For small thickness, I have another theory. You say, okay. Now, what if I have a thick airfoil, highly cambered? What are you going to do? There are situations where the assumptions can break down, and your analytical solutions may not function well, or if they give an answer, they'll give you accurate answer for the problem you actually solve, which may not be the physically realistic problem. This is a problem in analytical method. To the credit, analytical method will give you you can reason out. Actually, you get a deep understanding of the flow physics from analytical methods. You can separate variables like turbulence. You can separate viscosity and inviscid flows. You can separate rotationality and irrotationality and study the effects of this. If I add this parameter, what's going to happen? How will this parameter going to affect my flows? Fantastic. So in that way, analytical methods are quick. Analytical methods were very definite. You get a definite answer. Okay. But the problem lies in the assumption, and are they practically applicable? Can you use them to solve the flow over a aeroplane? You can solve it for flow over a sphere, flow over Zukowski airfoils. Yes, you have very wonderful and elegant transforms like Zukowski's transform, Karman-Trepp's transform. So many transforms are there. But can you use them to get physically realistic numbers. If I solve them and design an airplane, can I be sure it will be safe to fly that? Or how far am I sure that there are? Excuse me for a moment. Yes, no, yes, sir. Class. Sir. So, sorry. But where was I? Yeah, analytical methods are wonderful as far as these understanding of the flow physics is concerned. They give very neat and clean results, but when the problem gets complicated, in many places you are not able to apply the analytical method. What if there is unsteadiness? What if there is turbulence? Yes, you can solve a subset of the actual problems extremely nicely, in a very nice way. But the majority of the problems become very challenging if you go for the analytical method. Okay, so what else to do? After Euler and Laplace, what did people say? People, they actually went for experiments. Okay, let me see experimentally how far they agree. So D'Alembert discovered that there is no drag on a cylinder with no rotation. Okay, there is no drag, only lift. Practically, they saw there was considerable drag. What was the reason? They had neglected viscosity. They had neglected flow separation, which was not known at that time. Okay, so we had D'Alembert's paradox. That is because of analytical reason. Okay, analytically, because of neglecting that, you get so much of difference between what is observed practically and what is observed theoretically. But interestingly, the theory gives very good approximation of the lift. But as far as drag is concerned, they didn't predict correctly. Next is people thought of experiments. Those days when even now you have experimentation. Yes, so now experimentation will give you actually what is happening. Suppose you place the actual plane there, and when you're flying, if you take the measurement, it will give you the closest possible thing to reality. Yes. But how do you take the readings before the plane is made, before the design? Now people thought, okay, let me devise something, and thanks to Wright brothers, wind tunnels became popular. So you place a model inside wind tunnel, you do the experiments, you get the measurements on the model. You conduct the experiment in such a way that you can extrapolate it to the actual flow condition. So that is done by making the similarity parameters same. Ramanathan, what are similarity parameters? Remember?
Sir, similarity, no, sir?
Similarity parameters.
Yes, sir, like Reynolds number
Huh.
and Froude number.
Mach number.
Mach number.
So Reynolds
Cauchy
number
number.
for yes, fantastic. So what are the way they call similarity parameters?
Sir, what are all the ways, sir?
No, why are they called similarity parameters?
Sir, because in the flow field, if we change any one parameter, we would be able to get the difference in other parameters also, sir.
No, let me put it this way. If there are two flows,
okay, sir,
and the similarity parameter is same for both flows.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then if you have a non-dimensionalized graph of non-dimensional variables, for example, the length is non-dimensionalized. X by C varies from 0 to 1 in a wing, let's say 0 at the leading edge and 1 at trailing edge. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then this non-dimensional length you plot non-dimensional variables like CP. CP is
Yes, sir.
coefficient of pressure. Then for both the flows, the CP distribution will be the same, not similar, but same.
Yes,
But
sir.
you may have one scale and one velocity for one Reynolds number, another larger, larger plane with a smaller velocity, but the same Reynolds.
Yes, sir.
Then you can, as we're making the rule that CP is the same, you can actually extrapolate and find out the actual pressure is how much in the actual condition. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that is the advantage of using similarity parameters. When you plot these non-dimensionalized quantities against non-dimensionalized lengths, okay, both these flows collapse to the same thing. You solve one time, you actually solve you are solving a set of flows at the same time.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to again repeat the experiment at a different velocity for a different length. Correct?
Yes,
Rho
sir.
V will value. What if density is different? What if velocity is different? What is the coefficient of viscosity is different? It's okay. Just have the Reynolds number same. Then what will
Yes.
be same? The forces will not be the same. The pressure will not be the same. But the CP distribution will be the same in non-dimensionalized coordinates. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Like CP, because CL, CD, and CM are calculated based on CP. These also will be the same. You will get the same CL, same CD, same CM. If both are the same Reynolds number.
Yes, sir.
That is the beauty of similarity parameters. That is the beauty of
Okay, sir.
similarity parameters. So now if suppose this similarity parameter Reynolds number is based only on viscosity. Mu, the one coming there. Okay. Okay, right. Mu is there. This is, you are assuming that viscosity has a major influence on the flow. Where do you get that knowledge from? And if you take a Mach number, it doesn't talk about viscosity at all. It is, what is
Yes.
the, yeah. So what is the formula for Mach number? V by A.
V by A. Yes.
V by A. Right. Now, Divya Tejas. Divya Tejas.
Yes, sir.
Mach number is V by A. A is equal to root of gamma P by rho. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, if you want to just two things at the same Mach number, same thing holds good. Maintain the Mach number same. Okay. And in lab has one Mach number. Flight Mach number also should be the same.
Okay, sir.
And the flow geometry should be the similar. Like, same angle of attack and, same kind of airfoil. All those should be similar. That is also one thing I forgot to mention.
Okay, sir.
Just blow up. In that case, if you maintain same Mach number, you'll get same CP distribution. If compressibility is the driving factor for your flow. Like compressibility is more important than viscosity. That's what you mean by that. Or any other thing.
Okay.
Now, what if in a flow, both compressibility and viscosity are important? What are you going to do? Smish?
Yes, sir.
See, what if both compressibility and viscosity are important? How are you going to, non-dimensional? They should have the same Reynolds number and the same Mach number, correct? Things become
Yes,
a
sir.
little bit sticky. It may not be, many a times it may not be possible to ensure that. Most of the times. Okay. So anyway, it is customary that we understand that there are such dilemmas, but in such a case, if you do the experiment itself on the actual model, you will get the exact result. but unfortunately we cannot run the experiment until the model is built and until actual airplane is built. So we have to go for a model and we need to know what is important. What will help you in that? Analytical methods. Using analytical methods, people have analyzed and you can also find out whether density is important, compressibility is important for that thing, or viscosity is more important for that situation. Understand, Smish? So their analytical methods will help you in determining what should be the similarity parameter you choose. For example, it told about Strouhal number, Weber number, so many numbers it told. All those assume importance in certain types of flows. Okay. So there you see that these numbers are same between two flows. So finally, similarity parameters help you to reduce the number of simulations or experimentations you do. You do on one Reynolds number, it's applicable for many Reynolds number for the same geometry, the same flow, at the same angle of attack of flow. Streamline should be similar. That is one of the conditions for similarity. Not the same, but similar. Okay, now these are analytical methods which help you get some better understanding of the physics. Now, if I want to do experiments, yes, somehow I'm ensuring that Reynolds number is same. I'm doing experiment. Now, when I do an experiment in a wind tunnel, the wind tunnel walls themselves will affect my result. It's called interference, wall interference. Have you heard of it, Sanjay?
Sir?
Have you heard of wind tunnel wall interference?
No, sir.
Yeah, so for example, you're placing a model inside our wind tunnel. You've seen our wind tunnel, no?
Yes,
and doing measurements there.
Yes, sir.
And you're doing the same measurements in free air.
Okay.
Both will be different because the wind tunnel, the streamlines in free air will be curved around the body, right?
Yes, sir.
At a very large distance, they will become flat.
Yes.
In a wind tunnel, the streamlines are supposed to be flat at the walls.
Yes, sir.
So the streamlines in between also is going to be slightly different.
Okay.
So there is going to be a different pressure distribution which you measure in the wind tunnel because than the actual thing.
Okay.
Which means CL, CD, CM is going to be slightly different, which means that there is an error.
Yes.
Introduced due to the wind tunnel walls.
Yes.
Even if you measure without the wall, there will be other kinds of errors coming in supersonic flow, subsonic flow. Okay, so many errors are there. Then we bother about how to cancel those errors.
Yes.
Or how
Because
to
we
account
have
for those
open
errors.
test section wind tunnels also.
In open test tunnel, you open wind tunnel test section, there will be more bulged out than the actual flow.
Yes.
Okay, you will have that kind of error. So
Okay.
that becomes exacerbated when Mach number is between 0.8 and 1. It becomes very important to consider all this.
Yes.
Below that, it doesn't matter so much. So what they do is they make the model very small compared to the wind tunnel size. So you have to go for a huge wind tunnel to test a small model.
Okay.
Your operating cost for running the wind tunnel will be very high because you have to force so much air through the wind tunnel per second, so much more air.
Okay, sir.
This will in supersonic flow, the wind tunnel may reflect the shock waves, and the shock wave reflection may not be there in the actual case. The shock wave may again come on the body and create interference. It may create artificial separations. All this is going to affect your measurement, correct?
Yes.
So with all this, will you believe the experimental results also? I am giving you one option. Use analytical method and experimental method. Which one is better? what are the other things you need to decide?
Sir, ease of finding results.
Ease of finding results. Correct, Sanjeev. That you do, that is best done by analytical methods. Ease. But accuracy wise, we say even the experimental one is probably, 30-40% better than analytical. In that case, what will you do? It doesn't give exact result, but it can take you closer to reality than the analytical one. There are cases like that, right? Separation on a sphere, for example. Yes, Abhishek should. Abhishek Subramanian. Abhishek? Yeah. So there are not only this one. When you measure using a manometer or a pitot tube, okay, Abhishek,
Okay, sir.
aren't you actually disturbing the flow field? You're putting you're putting a probe there. The probe will have its own flow around it, no?
Yes, sir.
Won't it affect the actual flow and interfere with your actual reading?
A little bit it will do, but
Yes, a little bit. You should make sure it's a little bit. In some cases, it may not be little. In some cases, it's okay. Now, when is it okay and when is it not okay is what you should know in experimental technique. And sometimes it may not be okay at all. No, not acceptable. Full stop. Okay. So it has its problems. Experimentation is not the panacea for everything, but it can open up a lot of vistas which are not available in analytical solutions. You know a lot more if you compare these two. Don't you agree? And you can account why it is different. So you say that which one is better under the circumstance. Do you think it's good? Abhishek, you want to get the best possible answer.
then it won't give the best possible.
No, we can actually combine both, no, analytical and experimental, and compare both. If both of them give the same result, would you believe that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because that has a different set of strengths and weakness. This has a different set of strengths and weakness. If both give the same thing, it's more believable, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Let's say both are different a little bit or by a large amount. Now people realized the third arm. They wanted the third arm of analysis for fluid dynamics or anything which flows. So for us, aerodynamics is more important. But the same is applicable to any kind of fluid. You can apply the same principles to fluids also. I mean, liquids also. What we are going to study in this clinic. But we'll be focusing more on methods related to aerodynamics. That's all. Principles are exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference. Okay, Akash. Akash,
Yes, sir. Yes.
have you undergone a course in finite element method, or you have to undergo FEM?
Yes, sir. It's the last one.
FEM. Can you in FEM? Do you have a some continuous function
Yes, sir.
which you actually you are making approximation of that function somewhere?
Uh,
In FEM, what do you do? Okay, here you take the domain. What is the main use of FEM when compared to analytical methods? You tell me. Very basic question. Okay.
Yes, sir. So it basically uses numerical methods to solve problems.
Solve problems which are unsolvable by if you don't use numerical methods. Okay.
Yes. Uh,
That means analytical methods, correct?
yes, sir.
Analytically, you have stress strain formula, some constitutive equations, all those things are there. Can you solve everything using those equations analytically?
No, sir. We can't solve it
Yeah.
for like complex structures or something.
Yeah. Same thing here. Okay. You have formula, you can't use it for complex things.
Yes.
Okay. So the constitutive relations you can solve for simple structures, but complex one you have to make approximations. What approximation do you make there? Basic, fundamental. Ashwin Kumar. Akash, Elas Ashwin. Let Ashwin.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what are the approximations you make in finite element methods?
Sir, one of the approximations we make is with the geometries, whichever we are taking.
Then?
Suppose if it is a curved surface,
Hmm.
we tend to take it closer, like divide it into triangles.
Divide into straight lines. So
Yes, sir.
I will just put what you are telling me, a curved surface. Usually, if you mathematically, it will be a higher order polynomial. If you can express it, say x
Yes,
cube,
sir.
x power 4, or some spline with complicated formula. But you are actually approximating it with straight lines.
Making it linear.
Linear. So you're making a non-linear problem linear because it's easier to solve a linear problem than a non-linear problem. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And also you are subdividing the problem into small bits and pieces.
Yes, sir.
Then what do you do?
Sir, then we will integrate it accordingly to the amount we need, sir, like according to the structure.
Now, will you solve it bit by bit? One triangle, then next triangle, then next triangle. That is one way of doing it. Okay. Or let's say you solve for all triangles together in a large way. Holistic coupled equations are there. You solve them. Will you solve it that way? Which way do you solve?
Sir, solve it like find it for one and apply it completely, sir.
Find it for one. Then for the next triangle, adjoining triangle, you get some value, some you don't know, so extrapolate. You go like that incrementally.
So that would take time, sir.
One by one, you go. Both ways you can. There are two approaches I'm telling. Or
Yes, sir.
I say that all these are coupled together. I like the some matrix which is 100 by 100 matrix, and solve the matrix so that I get everything in one shot. Invert the matrix, solve for this. Which way do you do in FEM? I don't know FEM. That's why I'm asking you.
So
You
this
can be
one's
confident that I don't know.
We'll take it whole and we'll solve it, sir.
Okay. In CFD, we do both the things. Okay, both approaches are okay in CFD. We'll come to that later. Okay. Now, next, Satyavardhan.
Yes, sir.
No, let's say we are your CFD. Okay. What do you think we do in CFD? I tell we do something similar to FEM. Can you guess what we are doing in CFD?
Sir,
I tell you it's very similar to FEM.
we'll solve the fluid dynamics problems which we can't.
Wait. When you say fluid dynamics problems, now let me just add a small sentence there. Okay, you can continue what you're telling. I just want to add one small sentence. We are solving fluid dynamic equations, fluid dynamic problems using mathematical equations. What are these equations called? Governing equations of fluid flow. Yes.
We'll
Yes,
solve
Satya?
the
Ah.
yes, sir. We'll solve the fluid dynamics governing equations.
Can you
Which
name
we
name?
can't.
Do you have some name of that? Name of those equations? Any name is there? Can you recall those equations? Name of the equation, not the exact equation. Have you heard of Euler equations, Navier-Stokes equations?
Yes, sir.
Those are the governing equations. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So we are solving. Suppose we can solve that. Yes. Continue now. Continue.
Which we can't manually solve. Like it is
Yes.
difficult to manually solve. We use
Not manually. Use the word analytically. Okay.
analytically solve it.
Ah.
So we use computational methods.
So we use.
The computational methods.
Okay. 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 Good. Good. Any other thing you can guess? Hemavati, Aishwarya.
Yes, sir.
Can you guess any other similarity? What you do in FEM? Any other similarity you can? Can you guess anything, Aishwarya?
Yes, sir. Just a minute.
One thing, as Satya told, the equations are different. That's all. That is one difference between FEM and fluid dynamics. In fluid dynamics, we have. Aishwarya, meanwhile, think. I'm just talking to the class to help you
Sure,
think.
sir.
So, the Navier-Stokes equations, potential equations. The superset is actually Navier-Stokes equations with turbulence. Now, without turbulence, just the Navier-Stokes equations is laminar flow equations that you would neglect turbulence, which is there in nature. Then you neglect viscosity also, you get Euler equations. Fine. Now you neglect in Euler equations, you neglect rotationality. You get potential flow equations. Okay, this is one way of looking at things. Another way of looking at things is you neglect compressibility of the fluid. You get incompressible flow equations. Otherwise, it is compressible equations, compressible flow equations. Okay. See, for low speeds, compressibility effects are very, very small. Okay, so you can actually, neglect the compressibility and solve the equations. It is much more easier to solve it that way. Okay, you get one equation less, so it saves so much of headache. So you have compressible flow and incompressible flow. Then you also have steady flow and unsteady flow. In reality, the flow is unsteady. You make an approximation that the flow on an average, I want to have the average velocity, not the very, microsecond fluctuations. I'm not really interested. Every second, for example, it will be the same. It doesn't fluctuate much. Then you talk about steady state equations. You make the approximation that the flow is steady. Okay, hey, Aishwarya, any ideas?
Yes. So I think the basic thing will be in finite element methods we analyze for structural elements, and in computational fluid dynamics we do the same thing for fluid entities.
Yes, that is one thing. What do you do? That is understood. What do you do? Like, don't you break things into smaller elements like
Yes, sir. That will be.
Here also we'll break the domain into smaller elements.
Yes, sir.
Why are we doing it? Can you guess? No, I'll ask. Wait. I'll ask someone else. Thank you. I'll ask Dev Srutan.
Sir,
Why do we want to, break it up? This process, we call it, the technical term is discretization.
yes, sir.
Discretize is, making a continuous, what do you call analog and discrete? You remember, analog and digital, analog, digital. Analog, let's say, is similar to continuous signal. Digital is breaking it up into small pieces.
Yes,
So
sir.
here we call that process discretization, the digital process. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So why are we doing it? Why are we breaking it up into small pieces?
As a whole, we don't know if it all behaves in a similar fashion, sir.
One thing is to easily solve it. Okay.
Yes,
This
sir.
basically goes, it's a part of how to linearize a problem.
Yes, sir.
So we break it, instead of solving the equations throughout the fluid, for example, we are interested only at particular points. I am interested only in the numbers. I don't want to know analytically how U is varying. I don't
Yes.
want to know how analytically pressure is varying. But I want the value of pressure and velocity at that point. Also at a
Yes.
point nearby. Also at a point somewhere upwards, somewhere sideways. Okay. Now I want it only at certain points. Answer I am seeking only at points. I don't bother about the space in between them.
Yes.
I can extrapolate, so do some approximation to find out. If I need in between them, I can take, average of these two is that. Something like that I can do later. With this understanding, we are seeking solutions only at discrete points instead of the continuous domain. This is the basis of numerical method, numerical fluid dynamics or CFD. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the basis of CFD is we are not trying to solve the governing flow equations accurately at every point in space, but approximately at a predefined number of points in space. Clear?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Then we do linearize, but it will come much later. How we linearize will come later, because linearization will help you in solving the problem finally, which are actually unsolvable. Only for linearization purpose, we have potential flow in analytically also. Analytically, instead of, the Euler equations are coupled non-linear equations. Non-linear PDEs, partial differential equations coupled. One and the other equations are actually tied together. If you equation 2x plus y is equal to 0, then y plus 10x is equal to 5. Solve the equation. Both are coupled together. Right? You can't solve one and then solve the other. You have to solve them together. These PDEs themselves are coupled. How many are there? One for conservation of mass, which is continuity. In 3D, 3 for momentum in each direction. And then energy equation. Mass, momentum, energy. Totally you have 5 coupled partial differential equations and basically 5 unknown variables. So even to solve one nonlinear PDE is very difficult. That too, to solve 5 nonlinear PDEs which are coupled together is going to be extremely difficult. If you want to find analytical solution, then you are welcome, but don't blame me later. You can try for a lifetime and become award if you are successful. Okay. So to avoid that, we actually discretize these equations and you convert these equations into actually linear equations. In potential flow, basically converts all this into one single equation, linear equation, in velocity potential phi. That is the advantage of potential equation. To get that advantage, we are making so much approximation. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now we were somewhere. Now in CFD, next thing we do is we discretize the governing equations also. We discretize the points at which we want the answers also. So discretization is not just in the domain. We also discretize the governing equations themselves. You rewrite those equations in terms of discretized variables. You might have done this discretization in FEM also. So we have so many terms like, dou u by dou x, dou squared u by dou y squared, dou squared v by dou x squared, dou p by dou x, dou rho by dou t. In all these equations, you get all those funny terms, no? You remember, Vamsi Krishna?
Yes, sir.
You get all those scary terms, no? Partial different derivatives. Huh?
Yes, yes, sir.
Now we want to remove all those dou rho by dou t terms and make them into just linear equations. Isn't it wonderful?
Sir.
Instead of telling dou rho by dou t, I am calling it delta rho by delta t. Rho 2 minus rho 1 by t2 minus t1. Okay.
Okay.
Provided these are close enough, okay, they can be good approximation if they are very near to each other. This approximation we are making to linearize the complex partial differential equation. If you write, instead of dou rho by dou t, I write this one, it becomes algebraic equation, right?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, replace all dou u by dou x, dou v by dou y, dou w by dou z, everything.
Okay.
Everything becomes only a linear equation. That is, it's an algebraic equation also, which you can solve in those points. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Is exactly what you are going to do in CF. Exactly. So we are not going to do PDEs, although we say that we are solving PDEs. We are actually going to solve algebraic equations, and we're letting you in on a big secret now. Okay? Don't tell it to people outside the class. Secret. Yes. Thanks. Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Now, Vamsi, we'll go over to Kevin now.
Okay.
Once you do that, we have discretized the equations and we are going to solve them. Okay. Now, solution. Let's say we solve them now. This is a huge matrix. This matrix we have somehow solved it, inverting it and getting all the unknowns. We have a million by million matrix, million rows, million columns.
Okay, sir.
Is it a simple task to invert this matrix? No. You are going to have, that is why you need numerical methods. Okay. Or some other smart ways of solving it. Now, do you see any errors, approximations in the process we have outlined just now? Okay, think about it. It's almost time we finish this class. For some classes, we'll be going like this because I want you to have the basic understanding of why the hell we are doing this. Okay, Kevin. We'll start with you next class.
Okay,
or
sir.
rather, you can start the first person to answer the question next class. When is next class? Monday, yeah? Someone is lucky. Okay. Okay, now what should I do, Sanjay? Stop recording, no?
Yes, sir. Stop recording and
Stop
take it.
recording.